Good morning, humans. Mr. Bell here with sketchbook activity number 4. Remember, we did sketchbook activity number 3, and then this sketchbook activity is actually going to be on the same page. So I'm going to write that 4, and then the date today, which is September 14th. So I have my drawing already. Remember, we did those confident lines and we layered them on top of each other, thinking about that idea of perspective. So how can I tell which is on top of each other, which of these lines is farther away, and which of these lines is closer? Remember, this line up here, the one that doesn't have anything going over it, that would be on the top, and then this is below it. And then I can tell that this shape is below this shape because it's layered by them twice. So now what we're going to do for this exercise is we're going to quickly add some shadows to it to make it appear even more three-dimensional. So I'm going to take my pencil, I'm going to be holding it like this for this, because like this way you can also utilize the edge of your graphite much better. I'm just using a regular old pencil this time again. If you need to use a pen for this, you can, but I would recommend a pencil. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to recognize that this is below this, right? So if there was light shining in this, I'm going to try to imagine how that shadow would look. Before you really start playing around with light, though, you need to pick kind of where it's coming from. So I'm going to make a spot somewhere on the outside of my box to show this is where the light is shining on these three-dimensional objects from. So I'm gonna go up here in the corner, and I'm just gonna draw a little light bulb to illustrate this is where the light's coming from. So the light's shining here and it's shining down on my page this way, okay? I'm gonna point that little arrow. That means the light's probably going off that way, but this is all we care about here, right? The light is off to the side, so it's gonna be shining here. So I'm gonna start with the top layer and I'm gonna start shading as I go down. Okay, so this is the top layer. So I'm going to pretend that there is light shining on this and there is nothing above it to cast a shadow. So I'm not going to put anything in this first shape. But then I'm going to jump to the second shape that I drew, which is right here. And then so if the light's shining here and this is above it, I can kind of pick how high above this is for this. Like if this is way above where this was sitting, I could put a shadow all the way down here because that's where the light would be. But I want this one to appear like it's pretty close. So I'm going to have the light shine here, and I know that this would be blocking light in this area. So I'm going to add that shadow. Like out there. If we were in regular class, I'd probably have you use a tool called a smudge stump, but I'm going to say that most of you probably don't have that. So I'm going to show you that you can really just use your good old-fashioned finger for this. All you do is take your finger, put it kind of near where you want the shadow to end, and draw it down. This way you will the shadow will look kind of like it's fading out, which usually is how shadows work. Almost always you won't just see a drastic shadow where things are dark and where things are light right away. There's usually a gentle transition between those shadows. So this is shining a light here. Smooth it out a little bit more. So I can tell that this object now appears to be about this much off of it, right? So it's casting a shadow this way. Now I'm going to make sure there's no other lines crossing this one, and there doesn't appear to be on my drawing. There might be on yours, so you might want to put 2 shadows on your first object. But now I'm going to keep that light in mind, and I'm going to shine it down here. And now I know that this object and this object are both above this one right here. So this will have 2 shadows cast on it. This top object will cast a shadow on it, and this one that's below it will cast a shadow on it. So I know that this one is higher up than this one is over this. So this shadow of this one below would probably be around here, and then this shadow of the top one maybe would be a little bit down here. So this one's higher up. So I'm going to put this shadow far away, well, not far away, but not touching this, because I want it to look like it's casting a shadow, and maybe there's some light that's squeaking underneath there that's still shining on that. Same thing, I'm going to take my finger and I'm going to smooth that shadow out. I'm going to push it down, and voila, we have a cast shadow there. I think it maybe is a little too shadowy there. I smeared it a little bit, so I'm going to go ahead and erase just a little bit. Then I'm going to keep doing this for all of these different shadows. This is a pretty involved exercise. It should take you probably, I would say, maybe 10-15 minutes to do this. Remember, we are going to have another exercise on this using curved lines, and I'm going to show you that next. That'll be something that we do today as well. So again, trying to find that light source. It's coming this way. So this part of this object will probably be pretty lightly lit up, and there wouldn't be any shadows here because I can see that it's casting here. There may be a shadow cast from this guy all the way up here, but I don't think it's that high. If you want to make it that high up, you can. I'm going to accentuate that line real quick. So now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to look for another shadow. This one's on top, so I can tell that this one is well below it. It looks like it would probably be about on maybe the same level as this one because it goes above this object. But yet it's below this one. So it has to be somewhere in the middle. So when I'm playing with that shadow, I have to acknowledge that. So I'm going to go ahead and just put this shadow here. Remember, your drawing will look a little different because your lines are going to be different than mine. And that's a good thing. We don't want these all to look the same. We want them to kind of be random, so you have to figure out where that shadow is going. So the light's coming this way. I know that this line is above this shape right here, so this one would cast a shadow here. And then I'm going to take my good old trusty finger, smooth that shadow out, get it off of this. I don't want there to be anything there. That's why it's better to use a pencil for this, because you can do that erasing. But remember, if you are using a pen and you mess it up a little bit, that's not going to hurt you or anything. I'm really just looking for you to be trying your hardest on this. So this one, this right here, this is going to be a little difficult to figure out where shadow goes. So it's shining down here. This one's above. So I think this shadow would probably maybe be right around here. Smooth it out. And then I'm going to do this for the rest of my shapes. So line here. This shadow would maybe be around here. Remember, you can kind of make up where these shadows live because there's nothing that says how high above these objects are above each other. Maybe they're like this far apart, or maybe they're this far apart. You can kind of make that up as you go. Try to maybe think of these for this next dice that we're going to do. Is these are tree trunks that are laying in front of you in a forest. And you're standing here in front of them and you're looking through a bunch of branches. And then the sunlight is shining down here on those tree branches. So you got to figure out where those shadows lay. Like when you're drawing trees, they're so organic and their shapes can seem so random that you get to make it up sometimes as you go. I'm going to shadow just a few more here, and then I'm going to end this exercise. For you guys, I do want you to finish this. I'm going to show you what you can do with just a good old-fashioned Bic pen. Let's keep our fingers crossed that this pen works. I didn't test it out before. It does. Excellent. So this is how I would do it with a pen. I'm going to hold it the same way. You can use the ball of a ballpoint pen very similar to how you can use the edge of a pencil. It's just a little bit more clunky. So I'm going to shadow this line right here. This one appears to be pretty high up. So I think I can safely put, this one seems like it's pretty high up too, especially since I already put the shadow here. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to put a shadow here. With pens, it's just a little harder to smudge, but you can really get kind of that same technique, and you can also smooth them and like make that shadow fade pretty well with just a pen. I'm going to do one more. Which one should I do? I like the looks of this bad boy right here. So this light's shining over here, so the shadow would be somewhere around here. Like a schmo. I'm going to smooth it out. Again, you're going to see those lines with a pen, and that's okay if you're using a pen. If you do have a pencil, last time I'll say it, do think about using a pencil. I'm not going to waste your time and make you watch this whole video, but I want you to do your best to capture where all of these shadows end up. Thank you very much for watching. I'll hit you with another one soon.